front, cast and set into concrete and steel. A complex of forts with protected underground roads, miniature railway systems, and deep bunkers as barracks. The victorious armies of Britain and France saw the tank and the aircraft as just another weapon to be fitted into existing ways of fighting war. Tanks were attached to cavalry units. Tanks were ordered to support the infantry. The result was that tanks moved at the pace of men marching on foot, at the same speed as horse-drawn transport and artillery. Their job to knock out machine guns so infantry could make a bayonet charge on foot and cavalry could gallop to attack with sabers drawn. It would be completely wrong to suppose that the British and the French ignored the tank. Tanks, in fact, made up large numbers of both countries' armies. The weakness lay in the minds of the commanders, in the theories and ideas of war. Air forces in Britain and France were seen in the light of futuristic theories, of imagined wars that could be won by air power alone, where unstoppable bomber forces would bring devastation to the centers of population and industry. The Air Force officers of Britain and France encouraged these ideas. They meant air forces were independent, free from interference by generals or admirals. Britain and France were the winners of World War I. Germany had suffered national disaster. The terms of the Versailles Peace Treaty had destroyed the once proud German military. The German military mind was open to new ideas, rejecting the old ways of thinking that had failed to bring victory. Nazism, National Socialism, believed itself the politics of the future, with an ideology of newness which readily embraced modern theories and ideas. It was in this fertile and receptive environment that the new technologies were realized to create the Blitzkrieg. The idea was to create an armored and mechanized army in which all elements moved at the speed of the fastest, not the slowest, where infantry and artillery were mechanized and could keep up with the tanks, where airborne soldiers and paratroopers could be landed behind enemy lines, where the Air Force was not independent, fighting its own private war, but was instead dedicated to the support of the Army, with aircraft designed to attack tactical targets, troop formations, and supply lines in support of ground attack. The German Luftwaffe was by no means the ultimate fighting organization that its propagandists claimed. By the end of 1940, its weakness would have been laid bare to the world. But in the early summer, the Luftwaffe stood at the peak of its strength and effectiveness. Under the determined will of the Nazi administration, with active preparation for war in mind, Germany had focused on producing just a few highly effective and advanced aircraft. In Britain and France, the air forces were equipped with an assortment of types, some obsolete, some useless. The Luftwaffe's leadership, its officers, were of a high standard. In Germany, it was an honor and a mark of competence to transfer from army to air force. In Britain and France, such a move was a way for the incompetent to restart a career. Despite the modernity of the means of war, Blitzkrieg had at its heart classic military theory, ideas which would have been understood by the greatest commanders of the past: Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Napoleon. Blitzkrieg was not a strategy of wounding the enemy, of destroying him, but of techniques of hitting at the decisive point of rapid, fluid maneuver that could respond to the will of quick-thinking generals. Blitzkrieg was a strategy of encirclement and of surprise, in which victory would go to the quick and the skilled. The German word for armor is Panzer. Germany created specialist panzer divisions which, with close air support and airborne soldiers, were to act as the spearheads for German attacks, penetrating deeply behind enemy lines, outflanking and surrounding the enemy. The German army still had traditional elements, slower divisions of foot and horse that reduced and destroyed the pockets surrounded and cut off by the panzers. Panzer warfare, blitzkrieg, made real the soldier's nightmare: to be surrounded, to be cut off from home and safety, to have no way out. On May 10th, the forces of Britain and France outnumbered those of Germany. Germany had a total of 2,400 tanks, the French 3,000, and the British 1,000. Yet on that day, Hitler told his generals, "Gentlemen, you are about to witness the most famous victory in history." In the south lay the Maginot Line, fortifications against which the strongest of forces would find it difficult to prevail. This was where the French expected an attack. As a diversion, the Germans threw masses of ordinary non-mechanized and non-armored troops against the line. The Maginot fortifications did not extend across the Belgian frontier. Opposite these areas in northern France stood the best of the French army and the entire British army, guarding against a strike that would seek to bypass and outflank the Maginot Line and thrust to the rear towards Paris. This was what Germany had done in 1914, invading neutral Belgium to outflank the French. However, in 1940, the thrust came farther to the north, into Holland and northern Belgium. The French and British moved to meet the invasion. The northern attack was bait, an enticement, and a provocation. It was designed to draw the British and French to the north, into a trap, into destruction. As the Western Allies moved north, silently, quietly, through the dense forest of the Ardennes, came a third German attack. This concentrated the German panzer armies in one massive tank-based formation. The British and the French thought tanks could not work in the wooded country of the Ardennes. They could, and did, creeping slowly through narrow forest lanes, eventually to burst out into open countryside. As this silent menace grew, the first weight of the attack fell upon the Dutch in the north. The Dutch were genuine neutrals, and surprise was complete. A tiny army protected the Netherlands, just 10 divisions strong. It was an army that had not been in the field since 1830. The Dutch Air Force was a mere 125 planes strong, and was half destroyed on the ground in the first hours of the assault. The Dutch, historically, had retreated behind barriers of water. German airborne troops simply bypassed these defenses. On May 13th, the Luftwaffe, against no resistance, destroyed the historic center of the city of Rotterdam, and the Dutch surrendered. Still, the British and French advanced toward the north to a decisive battle. Hitler was to say of the campaign, as he received reports of the British and French advancing, "It was wonderful the way everything turned out according to plan. When the news came through that the enemy were moving forward along the whole front, I could have wept for joy. They had fallen into the trap they had believed." On May 13th, the British and French armies were deep into Belgium and Holland, and the third German attack burst in their rear, accelerating into open country. Moving at tremendous speed, the panzer armies swung around to the west, attacking the Channel ports, giving the British and the very best of the French no way out. By May 25th, catastrophe faced the entire British army. the entire British war effort was placed in the gravest peril as the British Expeditionary Force was